one of the most interesting classes in Dragon's Dogma 2. A lot of people is intrigued about this guy, and there's many things that we need to have into consideration when you want to decide if you actually want to be a warfarer. First and foremost, I think that, well, remember that Hideaki Itsuno is the person that actually directed the Devil May Cry games. To me, it seems like people can actually make crazy combos with this character, and it is I think that there's some idea behind of changing weapons and the vocation skills to make powerful combos like Dante can, for example, do on Devil May Cry. Remember that there's assets, animations that they use in Dragon's Dogma, similar to those that you see in the Devil May Cry games. That said, though, like I said, there's many things that we need to have into consideration when you want to decide whether you're going to be or not going to be the warfarer. And one of those things is the learning the vocations per se on themselves before you actually start using this character. Because the overall idea of the warfarer is being able to use many vocations at the same time with their weapons, their skills, so on and so forth. But there's a downside to it. You're only going to be using lesser versions of the vocations. You're not going to be using the higher level tier of the vocation. So the warfare is, on words of Itsuno, it's a lesser version of the rest of the vocations. So if you want to use the warfare, you need to learn how the different vocations work. And there's also the fact that you need to use the different vocations to learn their skills first hand from their vocation maesters and tomes. As you can see right here, Dragon's Dogma 2 also has vocation maesters, which we have discussed in a previous video, like Leonard, the fighter master, Sigurd, the mystic spear hand maester, and more. By building relationships with the maesters, you can receive tomes for the new vocations or maesters' teachings, which grant skills. However, there are drawbacks to using the warfare like I mentioned before. The drawbacks are like lower basic stats and having to carry multiple weapons for using the skills, which takes up inventory space and weights. It's also dependent on the player's knowledge of a vocation for using its skills in the best situation. Otherwise, you're just using a lesser version of each of the respective vocations. Remember that there's also a system where you can carry over vocation skills that you have learned from different vocations. So for example, to set an example, in Dragon's Dogma, you would be able to use an assassin, but you wouldn't be able to learn the assassin skills. Well, you could learn like Strider skills that otherwise when you choose the assassin, you have those skills from the Strider. So you do need to have knowledge of the different vocation skills before you actually start using them with the warfare. But not only that, it's not only about the tomes and what the vocation maesters are going to teach you, it's also about the knowledge on itself of being able to properly use the combos to your advantage. I would say then that in that regard, if you want to use the warfare is going to be an advanced vocation that only veterans should attempt to use. You need to learn what is it that the different vocations can do before you actually start making proper powerful combos. This is especially true for the warfare because remember that the vocation skills that the warfare is going to have, they are going to be the lesser versions of the more specialized vocations that you have. Now, when you actually take a look at the trailer and the gameplay that we have for the warfare right here, you will see that this could potentially change, but this is what we can see right now. You can cycle in between different weapons, but you're not going to have the availability of all of the weapons at the same time at all times. So as you can see, the warfare is changing from 3 different weapons. Sometimes he uses the dagger, and then he switches to a bow, and then he switches to a longsword. More specifically, for example, here you can see him use the staff for either a sorcerer or a mage, and then he switches to the mystic spear, and then from there he switches to the daggers. Here it's a little bit more tangible. you see him using the magic bow, and then a greatsword, and then the regular bow, and then he switches back over to the magic archer bow, meaning that because of what we can see right here, you're probably going to have access to 3 vocations at the same time, depending on the weapons that you can cycle in between with the core skill of the warper. Once you have knowledge about all of that, and once we learn that that is like the kind of stuff, the bread and butter of the warfare, that's the skeleton of the warfare, it comes back to mind again that you need to be aware, you need to be very mindful, not only on being able to in gameplay have the knowledge to use the vocation skills from the different vocation maesters, you also need to have the knowledge on when is it more beneficial to you to use different combos and take advantages of the weaknesses of the enemy, and when is it just not a good idea. I think that a lot of guides are going to be amazing with this guy. There's going to be lots and lots of cool builds when it comes to the warfare, more than anything, because the skills that you're going to be able to change with this guy are just going to be nuts. Let me give you an example, a very, very basic one. I have seen a lot of people commenting on my videos what they want to do, and it is a very nice idea. Like, for example, on Dragon's Dogma, the original Dragon's Dogma 2012, you have the Strider Vocation. On Dragon's Dogma 2, the vocations are a little bit more streamlined. They only have access to one single weapon, which, for example, on Dragon's Dogma 2012, the magic archer would have the magic bow, but he also uses the daggers, and he has access to 1,000 kisses, which are excellent for climbing monsters and dealing damage to monsters while you're on top of them, while you also have the magic bow. On the other hand, you have the assassin that can carry a longsword, and you can use longsword combos while also having access to the bow, or the strider that can have access to daggers and bow. Since that is not the case in Dragon's Dogma, a lot of people are thinking like, if I want to be a magic archer that doesn't have that much defensive capabilities other than knocking down enemies with the volley of attacks of the magic arrows, then maybe I can be a warfare to use daggers and use 1,000 kisses whenever I need to climb the monster, or do the flurry of attacks whenever I'm fighting different kind of AoE mobs around here and there, and whenever I need to, I can switch back to my magic bow. So that's one of the combos that you could potentially be using, and that alleviates to some extent the lack of a strider or the lack of a ranger in Dragon's Dogma 2, because you can be a warfare that can be using daggers and bow at the same time. On the other hand, I think that a lot of people is concerned, I myself am a little bit concerned about how balanced is this guy going to be when it comes to different classes that probably in paper, we do not know in execution, but in paper they do not need that much stats, because remember that Warfare, because of everything that he has, he doesn't have as high stats as the rest of the classes that are a little bit more streamlined and more specialized and focused on what is that they do. So for example, you can be a trickster with a warfare. The trickster on paper, it doesn't require that many stats, but what the trickster does is that he causes aggro upon the enemies, and he can create, for example, walls. Those walls trap people with the fighter or the warriors, the frontliners, so that you can attack from a distance. So for example, you can be a warfare and you don't necessarily need to have a trickster anymore on your crew, because you can cast those walls, you can cast aggro, you can cast illusions, and then from a distance switch back to a bow, for example, and then you no longer have the necessity to have a trickster on your crew. One very cool thing to do, and this is something that Itsuno mentioned himself, is one of the coolest combos that I think that I am going to be trying with my warfare, and it actually makes quite a bit of sense. There's something called multicasting on Dragon's Dogma 2, which happens when you have, for example, two sorcerers. The two sorcerers start casting the same spell at the same time. That same spell is going to be potentialized, it is going to be deal more damage, but remember that a sorcerer, for example, could be a little bit more vulnerable. It takes quite a lot of time for you to cast that thing. So you need to have a fighter that's doing shield bashing to catch the attention of the enemies so that you can upcast that skill from a safe distance. So party composition comes into play in here. But for example, take a look at this. I really enjoy multicasting, which is when multiple characters invoke magic at the same time. You can do this with the sorcerer. You're able to do that with a mage too, and it makes the spell more powerful if you release it at the same time. However, if you get a party of 4 sorcerers, then healing becomes quite a headache. It can actually be pretty challenging. But if you make your party with a warrior plus sorcerers, then you can do healing while also multicasting. I find that idea to be actually quite fun and exciting. If we follow this same pipeline, this same pattern, you can for example have a trickster with a warrior, and you can have for example 3 sorcerers and start multicasting like a maniac. You cast illusions, the enemies aggro the illusions, and then the warrior immediately goes back into multicasting as well with the sorcerers that you have on your crew. So all of these combos that you have with the warrior require deep knowledge, like I said, not only on the gameplay value of having the skills learned from the Vocation Masters, but also gameplay and reaction value of the player, the character, of having the knowledge, what is the best possible combo that I can do? What is it that I can pair up together? One very cool combo that I think that I could try out with a warrior, for example, remember that there's flying griffins like the one you can see right here. They go away flying, then you immediately switch into a mystic spear, you teleport back to the griffin, and then you immediately switch back to a fighter, and the fighter can start casting their very devastating attacks while you're on top of the monster, and it doesn't really matter that the enemy is going to fly away anymore or that he's very movable, because you can chase him with the Mystic Spear hand and then finish it up with a warrior. So those are some kind of like the combos that you can have with the warrior. But remember, this is a very advanced vocation. It requires a lot of knowledge on the game and skills for you to properly use it. Anyways, let me know what you think, guys, in the comment section down below. Are you excited about the warrior? Remember to join the Discord. We're going to be sharing pawns in here once the game launches. Remember to like the video, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel. And also, if you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you're in the gorgeous and beautiful person. I will see you beautiful, beautiful people in the next one. Have a lovely, lovely day, and goodbye.